Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton McCurdy. Along the game was tonight, Bruce.
All
It
right.
was a fabulous hockey game that the Oilers lost on a really on a really bad play by a number of players. But the Oilers. If you're going to go out in the playoffs, Bruce, you want to go out. You want to leave everything on the ice played their hearts out. And
Mm-hmm.
in the end, the Jets were the better team in the series. I think it was 19-10 for grade A chances, according to our count. Yes, it was. In part because the Oilers
Tonight.
missed the net tonight. Oh, and overall the Jets had an edge because of that in the series as well. In part tonight's so because the Oilers just yeah. What's your general thoughts, Bruce? We're live here, so I'm gonna find this and tweet it out
Okay.
to the game.
I'm getting some real funky sound from your end at the moment. I'm not sure how well that's translating. I'm having my concerns about the quality of quality control of this new platform we're using. To be honest with you,
Okay,
yesterday it
how's
was
it?
my mic that was cutting out in the evening podcast, and somebody mentioned it in the YouTube comment section. And thank you, whoever that was. And I listened through it, and it wasn't good in the night one, and in the morning one it was perfect. It was same computer, same everything. I didn't turn it off in between times, so I can't explain it. But anyway, my thoughts of the game was it was a marathon, and I was I thought the Oilers would win one. Like you play three overtime games in a row. The odds of it coming up tails three times in a row, not good. And Edmonton, they pushed the possession time, and they had the puck in Winnipeg's zone a fair bit, and they generated a lot of shot attempts in this game. Indeed, the spectacular total of 113 shot attempts by Edmonton to a mere 89 by Winnipeg. But the shots on actual goal were 40 for Edmonton and 43 for Winnipeg, because Edmonton missed the net 26 times, and they had just a ridiculous 47 shots blocked by the Jets. The Jets' defensemen's sticks were really, really good throughout this series, getting in the way of passing lanes, blocking shots, and poke checking guys that tried to make moves around them. And those defensemen's sticks was like a freaking forest of hockey sticks, and they thwarted the Oilers continuously throughout the games, and they played. Um, they hung in there long enough for the one big break that happened. Was it 7 minutes into the third overtime? 6:52 into the third overtime. That the game was finally decided on a big break and a partial breakaway and a good shot that eluded Mike Smith to put it away. And up until then, I was thinking the Oilers were. I thought they would pull one off in there in Winnipeg one way or another, but it just wasn't to be.
It was not to be. It was not to be. Alrighty, Bruce. This is going to be. This is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. And usually with an Oilers loss, we go with two bad things each, but we're going to go with two good things each because there was a couple of really bad things that we'll get at. But yeah, maybe we'll go with two bad things each as well. Two
Hmm.
good things each and two bad things
Let,
each because it was
let's
like
do
two
that.
games anyway. That
Yeah,
that makes
it
sense.
was.
Yeah. So
A lot of numbers for you too, if you want them. Lots of crooked numbers on the event summary tonight. Holy moly!
yeah.
Bit of an eye popper.
Why don't you start it off, Bruce, with a good thing?
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of those crooked numbers was Darnell Nurse, who played 62 minutes and 7 seconds tonight. 62 minutes Darnell played, including, I believe, somewhere in the range of 34 in the two and a half, two and a third overtime periods. I know he played 15:32, they said, in the first overtime period. Can you imagine? He played 15 and a half minutes out of a 20-minute period, including a 4 minute 47 shift that uh, pushed Jason Strudwick and Taylor Chorney out of the Oilers record books for longest shift by an Oilers defenseman. And it was I admired his game tonight. I thought he did a very good job. Very, very few mistakes. He played a good, safe game. He conserved his energy as much as he could, and yet it wasn't like he just completely backed off. Like he would still participate in the offensive cycle, but he picked his spots as to when to skate, and otherwise he just held his position and let the game come to him. And when he was on the ice, the Oilers had 64% of the shot attempts, 61 for, 34 against. But the actual shots, this is another variation of what I said earlier. Actual shots were only 18 to 18, and that's in 51 minutes at even strength. Of course, he also chipped in 8 minutes and 13 seconds on the penalty kill, and about 3 minutes on the power play as well. All situations from Darnell, and he workhorse is an understatement for what this guy was doing out there. I mean, throughout much of the season, but tonight, I mean, if you think 20 minutes is a normal game for a defenseman, he played 3 of them. And even by his standards, where 30 minutes is a long game, he played 2 of those. And he was still bringing it, I thought, throughout. So tip of the hat to Darnell Nurse. He was up and down in the series. I didn't think he was that good in games 1 or 3. Thought he was fine in game 2, and I thought he was very fine in game 4.
He was indeed. I was hoping go to Slater Cuckoo a little bit more, Bruce. I think that might have been a good idea to, yeah, like it all. And I don't. He had been playing quite a good game, and he's a solid player. He'd been as good as Russell, and he could have. I think it might have made a difference spelling off Nurse and Russell for the odd shift in overtime, but not to be. Bruce, my first good thing. And the Jets, as we've said, fired 19 grade A shots at Mike Smith. You'd expect normally. How many goals got by him here? 4? 4-3. This game's so long I wasn't even paying attention to the score. It's just that it was tied forever.
Yep.
As the game went on, Bruce, he got stronger. And with it his really strong play, though, starts with penalty right at the end of the first period. And the Jets got off 4 grade A shots in that penalty. The Oilers were already down 2-1. And 4 grade A shots. Scheifele gets one. And then off that same shot, the rebound hits the Jets player in front, and Smith makes another save. Then with just a few seconds left in the first period, Stastny breaks in down the wing and goes right to the net, kind of a mini breakaway, and jams it in and Smith stops him there, and then he stops Mark Scheifele as well on the. There's a little bit of a rebound, but Mike Smith got that as well. In the third period, and this might have been his best save, Larson, near the end of the game, it's tied 3-3. This is after the horrible third goal against the Oilers. Really the game-changing moment. Late in the game, Adam Larson rushes the puck in, up the ice, and he gets to the blue line, and he turns it over there. And it leads to a 2-on-1 against. Chris Russell's back. They're able to pass the puck cross seam. Russell isn't able to stop that. And Pierre-Luc Dubois gets off an absolute 5-alarm shot, and Mike Smith makes the save. It was indicative of his night. He was there. And in overtime, just a number of great chances. Shifley had a one-timer on the power play in the first overtime that was fantastic. Nick Ehlers, I think, had one or two chances. And I don't really fault him on the winning goal. It was a kind of a breakaway shot, semi-break shot, and a tough one. He's had a remarkable season, Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
He's been, without him, they couldn't have played Nurse and those other guys so much because him moving the puck
Right.
saves a lot of energy for the defenseman. And
That's
a
true.
lot of defensive zone time is cut down because of him. So that enabled the Oilers in some ways to play 4D because he was moving the puck well. Now there's a couple iffy moments out there. There is sometimes, but so his really valuable contributions, that was a huge thing in a game that long. Him consistently moving the puck, getting it out now and then when he had to, shooting it up the ice. He was I liked his play throughout. I know people were down on him after last game. They thought there was a couple iffy goals. Those were pretty tough shots. Every single one that got by Smith, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. He's definitely earned. He'll be back next year. I don't have any doubt, Bruce, and he's earned another contract.
I listened to Kevin Woodley, the goalie expert, who is a weekly guest on the Jason Greger show on TSN 1260 today. And he revisited a couple of those goals on Smith yesterday. And in particular, he looked hard at that tying goal that we talked about, of course, on the podcast at some length.
Tipped
The one
and
that
screened.
Puljujärvi just tipped, and he talked about the double wide flash screen of McDavid chasing Kopp right through his line of sight just as the shot was being let go and tipped, and that he basically said, and he's not a guy that sort of exonerates and whitewashes the goalies because he's a goalie. Like he expects. Uh, I'm an old goalie of his own heart. I expect the goalie to contribute, and I expect big things of the goalie. And I'm not satisfied when the goalie's not doing his job. But on that play, like he described the technical aspects of how Smith could have played that differently and maybe made the save. And he said, in the end, he was in the right part of the net. He had his glove there, and the little tick was the difference between the puck going in the glove or going just under the glove the way it did. He just pointed out some of the chaos that occurs in front of the goalies that contributes to um, these ones that get by them from time to time. He said, he thought Smith actually had a pretty good game, even though he wound up giving in 5 goals yesterday. So, you know,
I agreed. I agree with that. I think people were too harsh on him. They're not thinking about. I do think he might have had the last one, the Ehlers shot. He could have.
yeah,
It was off a face off. He should have been out more. I think he should have had that
yeah,
personally. I
yeah.
think, but I think the other one was a very tough chance. We had another one just early on in this game where he stopped a total screenshot. Like Tyson
Hmm.
Barrie and a Winnipeg Jets forward were in front of him, but so was Darnell Nurse standing tall and completely blocking Smith's. Smith could see the puck, but he had to go to move to the other side to save it. I believe on that one again. So just another big moment for him in a big and every reason to think that he can come back next year and have a good game, have a good season. Like I think it's worth the bet on him. So hopefully the others are going to tie him up. Bruce, what's your second good thing?
Yeah, well, a lot of foot soldiers, the ones who played, which in the end was 9 forwards, 4 defensemen, and the one goalie, that did basically all of the overtime with a couple of tiny exceptions on the penalty kill, which the Oilers had to kill 2 penalties while never getting a power play in overtime. Um, but generally, it was the same 3 lines and the same 2 defense pairs forever and ever. And some pretty unexpected guys stepped up into those 3 line roles. I mean, Devon Shore played almost 25 minutes. You're going to talk about him in a minute. Jessup Puljujärvi played 23 minutes. Kyle Yamamoto played 35 minutes. Zach Cassian 28. The guy who I really liked in this game, Gaetan Haas, 22 minutes and 32 seconds he played, 38 shifts. He kept his shifts short. He chipped in on the penalty kill almost 3 minutes, and he would have chipped in more had he not been the guy in the box on 2 occasions. He did take 2 penalties, one for a trip and one for puck over glass, which is,
Tough
I
play.
don't understand. It's a tough, man. The game is so unfair. Like a guy can be tackled and held in the corner for 40 seconds. I swear there was a shift where there was a guy who was just hanging on to Draisaitl behind the net for 40 seconds, not a problem. And then guy tries to play the puck around the glass and he misses the glass by an inch, and that's a penalty after like two periods of nothing. Like I know it's the rules, but the rules themselves are the law is an ass in some cases, and that's one of them. I mean, it didn't decide the game, that penalty, and yet it did because it led to the sequence of pain in the end and the line change that was part of the problem. But his game tonight, Gaetan Haas, I thought he was flying. I thought he was extremely committed to his game. If only the guy had some hands and could make a play with the puck. But he had a complete right across the event summary, everything. He had a shot on net, a shot that was blocked, two that missed the net. None of that's really good, but I mean, he was active. Four hits, one giveaway, two takeaways, six blocked shots, including one absolute doozy, a kick save and a beauty that dealt with a very dangerous chance in overtime that would have been through a screen, and Haas played goalie up top and kicked it out. Six shot blocks, that's an exceptional number for a forward, even in a long game, to get in the way that often, and a very strong 10 and 5 in the face-off circle. And all of those numbers just say he was involved in, every aspect of the game, but I enjoyed his skating and just his responsible uh, play. And that's a guy whose future is very much up in the air. I don't know if the Oilers are thinking of bringing him back for next year, but if they're mulling it over, then what they might want to do is pull Gaetan Haas's shifts out of this game and give him a real close watch, because that um, the breadth of his game was on display in tonight's game.
The coach, Bruce, like the best argument for the year, the coach really,
Mm-hmm.
and Ryan McLeod, he
Trusted him,
didn't
yeah.
trust Ryan McLeod, and
Mm-hmm.
Ryan McLeod's, I would work in progress. He's fast, he's got good hands. He he's not the defensive player that Gaetan Haas is. Gaetan Haas is an outstanding defensive hockey player, and he's such a weird hockey player. Let's face it, we're dealing with a
Yeah,
very
very
odd
good.
hockey player. Super fast, can make a pass with the puck, can carry the puck a bit, can dump it in and forecheck, but for the life of him, he can't score.
Mm-hmm.
But he gives up almost nothing in his own zone. He's just such a fine defensive hockey player. He can kill penalties, but he can't win faceoffs. So the people who really love the faceoffs thing, that's a huge negative. But I think it's far more important, Bruce, for me, defensive slot. Like, make sure you cover that slot, and Haas does it better than any other center on the Edmonton Oilers. So, as a 13th or 14th forward, kind of in the Patrick Russell role, I hope he comes back next year. And it's gonna, like, I think Kara's contract's up, right, as well. So Haas's contract's up, Kara's contract's up. An interesting one. Kara does provide physical play. Maybe you bring them both back as your 13th and 14th forwards for next year, and hope to. So yeah, I'm a I'm on Team Gaytan for some.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't, like, as we say, he does not score.
He's an easy
Moving on.
guy to like, David. Like
No, but not every. I don't think
he's a very
everyone's.
honest worker. If he could go 10 and 5 in the circle every night, we'd like him a whole lot more, I suspect. But that's what he
Yeah,
did. So there was no shortcuts in his game tonight, and he covered the full 200 feet.
strong on the penalty kill. Really good on the
Mm-hmm. Yep.
back. Depends who else is available, how much money they have, all those things. He will come reasonably
Right.
cheap, I'm sure. Bruce, my other
And
good thing
word
was the
today,
play.
by the way.
Go ahead.
Sorry, before we move on, word today that European that's we sort of put in the same vehicle as Haas uh, is that was signed in similar fashion in the off season of 2019. Word came out today that he had signed a contract in the back in the Swedish league. unfortunately, his NHL opportunity ruined by a badly broken hand, which caused him lots of grief, a couple of surgeries. Still was a problem even this year, and so I don't think we ever did see the capability of that player, which is very unfortunate. But he for sure is out of the equation for the Oilers going forward.
Yeah, having some computer problems here and cutting out. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this new live thing, Bruce, it works and it doesn't work. It's caused a little bit of problems here. Hope so. I've changed my mic. We'll see if that makes.
Yeah.
We'll see if that helps. We'll see if that helps. Alrighty. Okay, my other good thing, Bruce, is the play of the line that we saw mainly in overtime. Ryan Nugent Hopkins, Devin Shore, and Zach Cassian. As it went on, I was thinking, well, either Leon Draisaitl is going to score for the Oilers or one of those three guys is going to score for the Oilers. It was Ryan Nugent Hopkins' best game of the season,
Mm-hmm. I
and
agree.
I hope that he, I hope he can come back on a short-term deal. I think that would be the best thing for him and the Oilers. I don't think he's earned a long-term contract all year. He was driving the play. He was carrying it with confidence. He was a center. He was what what kind of we remembered of him, and haven't seen that much this year. It's kind of been such a strange year for him. I don't know what's been going on, but we saw it tonight, up and down the ice, making defensive plays, attacking very well, so smart with the puck, and I thought they might break through. Devin Shore was that guy, the guy that we saw tonight. He was like this two-way monster out there. He got a breakaway late in the game in one of the second overtime. Connor Hellebuck
Mm-hmm.
stopped. He broke in
Poke
for a
checked him.
shot. Poke checked him.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. He broke in for a shot. Just missed. He just missed the net on it. Really dangerous moment. He looked like he was gonna like he wanted to score and he was keen to score. Um, Cassian again because he's on a contract for long term, and
Yeah, he's coming back.
he's coming back for sure. But he was puck protecting. He was hitting from Zach Cassian. He was solid enough in his own zone. So that line didn't. Well, Nugent Hopkins, of course, did score the great goal, which I hadn't mentioned yet, where he broke in, took an outside shot, got the rebound, and put it off his skate and up and backhanded. I think it over Connor Hellebuck. Great goal from Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Such a crucial goal too to tie that game. If the Oilers had gone down 3-1, Bruce, I don't think they would have been able to claw their way back. So, absolutely crucial moment, and I was kind of thinking the Oilers might be on their way at that point, um,
Mm-hmm.
but not to be.
He also
Alrighty,
earned an assist on the power play goal that gave the Oilers the lead, their one lead of the night at 3-2, when he teed up Draisaitl and then Alex Chason uh, was able to deposit the rebound and go stick handle around Hellebuck and tuck it home. Nifty play by Big Alex in what I foresee as his last game as an Oiler, unfortunately, or depending how you think of it. But anyway, he went out with a goal, and then he went out sitting on the bench for the entire 3 periods of overtime. So there's that.
Bruce, what is your first bad thing?
Yeah, I got to go with that game tying goal, and it occurred 8 minutes or so into the third period. 6 minutes into the third period, Edmonton leading 3-2, and they'd earned the lead late in the second. I thought maybe this will be one of those games where they can just nurse that 1 goal lead down the stretch. Maybe we're happy it's not a 3 goal lead like last night where everything will come apart. But of course, the thing about a 1 goal lead is that it only takes one mistake, and boy, was it a doozy. Uh, an unfortunate uh, pass right up the middle of the ice by Ethan Bear, where 2 Jets were lurking, and the second of which stepped into the lane and picked off the pass before it reached the Oiler that it was intended for. But because it was up the middle, as opposed to around the boards on either side, immediate chaos ensued, and Slater Cuckoo, Bear's partner, tried to make a hero play where when the jailbreak came right back at Edmonton's net because it hadn't even cleared the zone. Kukuk took a slide at the puck carrier and missed him, and the guy made a good move, and Kukuk was out of the play, and scrambling, and it wound up that the puck was in the middle slot, and there was two Oilers there that couldn't intercept the pass, but they were kind of in position to try and block the shot. And the guy in the middle, whoever made the pass, he faked the shot, and it was Kyle Connor. Go figure. And he faked the shot, and he slipped it over to Mark Scheifele, and Ethan Bear, who was trying to recover. Originally, he had Scheifele, and then he saw the shot develop, and he bit totally, and he went in the middle, and there was three Oilers, 1, 2, 3. You could have thrown a towel over all three guys, trying to block the shot that never happened, and Connor slipped it over to Scheifele on unmolested blast, one-time blast that beat Mike Smith to tie the game at 3-3, and that kind of started it, David, because it wasn't just the goal itself, but the what happened in the aftermath of it. Dave Tippett sat down Bear and Kukuk for the entire rest of the game, with one exception. In the third overtime on the penalty kill, Bear got a shift then finally. Kukuk never saw the ice again, and to me, he made the sort of the lesser of the two errors on the play. But from then on, it was like four defensemen the whole way, and it was four defensemen for the last 14 minutes of the third, four defensemen for all of the first and second overtime, and it was just uh, uh, it was like the final straw with Tippett, and he decided that the only way to deal with it was to nail his third pairing to the bench because they'd made a mistake, and I think that the other pairings really paid a price. In the excessive minutes they logged, and you could make a case that those excessive minutes had something to do with the ultimate game-winning goal, especially Adam Larson's um, role or non-role in it. But
Yeah, this is my bad thing. I just think there was a few things that Tippett did that so my bad things kind of run into against the power play goal that Winnipeg scored. And for some reason, Connor McDavid hasn't been killing penalties all year long, and he was out there on the penalty kill at the end,
mm-hmm.
and he just was unable to make the play. It was Draisaitl. I think Leon was out of position as well. It was a clean entry, and he went to work. Instead of stopping and starting like you have to do on the PK, he did a big swoop, and he took himself out of the play. And McDavid, the middle of the ice, and he doesn't get his stick on the cross seam shredder. I think it was it Scheifele who scored that goal, and I don't know why McDavid's out there at that moment. Why? What's that all about? You haven't been doing that. So and then the collateral damage of the Ethan Bear goal.
Mm-hmm.
It meant Cuckoo, who was playing a good game and has been the guy who's earned a contract for next season. It's inexplicable to me in some ways that they wouldn't go to him at least now on the in the overtime. People are complaining. I gotta.
Uh-oh.
Oh well, whatever.
Where'd you go, David?
Can you hear me now, Bruce? Here, I'll try.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you were there for a minute.
I don't know if we're going to be able to keep doing this, Bruce, because anyway, we'll go back to the old Skype thing for the because we don't have to go live. There's no more live events to cover. Anyway,
no more games, until
no more games. And I don't know why. I don't know why in overtime, like why not? Like you're running these forwards, why not give Kara a shift with, sit Zach Cassian for a little bit, and put out Chase on, right, with McDavid or with Ryan Nugent Hopkins and Shore. Why not try that just to give someone a break? And because the other players they seemed to be lagging so much and so tired. We're, that I just think if you had had fresh people out there, Bruce, it would have made a huge difference.
Hmm.
So I know that Tippett didn't want to he wanted to go with the guys he trusted most. But at some point, if the guys you trust most are playing at 50% of what
Yeah.
they can bring, and so is the other team, and you can take advantage of that, why not try to
Put
take
out
advantage of that?
put out Peter Klima.
Yeah, or Cam Connor, like that, that
Yeah,
famous
yeah,
goal that we've been hearing about
yeah.
lately, that he scored for the Montreal Canadiens. It was his only shift of the game in overtime, deep into. So that was an awfully conservative move by the coach, and I think the Oilers
Mhm.
hardly got any scoring chances, Bruce, in overtime. I mean, what do we have it at? I'm not even sure. Two or three or
Yeah.
four
Well,
in
they
overtime.
got 10. They got 10 in 6 periods. I mean, that tells us a tale, doesn't it?
They had four grade A scoring chances in overtime. Now they missed a lot of shots too, so you factor that in.
Yeah.
But this wasn't great.
So anyway, the McDavid shift on the penalty kill, he came out at 6:04, which was with 30 seconds left on the penalty kill, and it's long been Tippett's strategy to put McDavid and Draisaitl out there at right after the penalty kill, and sometimes he cheats a bit and gets them out there just a few seconds before. But this is twice in this series that they got burned for a goal against at the end of a power play. His two high-scoring forwards and McDavid. He did get shredded for the pass there. I had a different view on Draisaitl's role in the play, which I didn't have a serious problem with what Leon did, uh, but McDavid certainly got beat by the cross ice pass there, and you are kind of wondering why are those guys out there? There's still 20 seconds left in the penalty kill, 30 when he came out, and they quickly scored. So that didn't end well, and that's kind of on the coach.
I agree. I agree. Do you have another bad thing, Bruce? Or
Yeah. Well, I kind of morphed into it, I guess, when I talked about you know, the the extreme shortening of the bench with 9 forwards and 4 defensemen, and I guess I get it down the stretch of a game, but when the game has sort of an indefinite length to it in the future, and you got fresh bodies sitting on the bench, I guess the coach is between a rock and a hard place. I'll grant that. Like in game two, the Oilers lost in overtime when they had one of their weaker lines on the ice, and they got burned for the game-winning goal against that night. And probably that's kind of set the coach's mind on, I want if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose with my best, and he did lose with his best. But Winnipeg was. Their defense was a fresher group, and I think that's probably why they blocked more shots and created a little more, uh, you know, were more hard on the man, close to the man, and not allowing much in the way of penetration. And I'm not going to say that any of the four Oilers defensemen who were playing played bad because they honestly didn't. I thought they were all fine, but there was an energy budget that was constantly getting overspent.
just want to see how Chris Russell did here, according to our 04A. Yeah, I thought the Oilers they really missed Chris Russell this series. I know not everyone thinks that, but Kulikov is a good player. Chris Russell's a better defensive player, and it would have been good if he was in the regular rotation throughout this series. And it's good to see him back in the game tonight. And I'm glad he's back on a contract for next year because is a spot player that they can use now and then. As
At
their
the right
seventh D man
price,
at the right price next year. Yeah.
finally.
Oh, I don't think he's been a huge overpay, Bruce, in his contract. I think maybe this year you
Oh,
could say he was, but until this, yeah, even
right.
this year, he was often playing in the top four. I mean, what's the going rate for a top four defenseman who's outstanding defensively? He was a bit overpaid, but I don't think
He,
significantly, not significantly this year.
He's been well. They really gave him a serious haircut down to 1.25 million, and at that price point, he's not a bad insurance policy to have.
Yeah.
And he brings lots of game. I didn't notice him really making any mistakes tonight, and he was a little bit involved in the offense. He made some decent breakout passes. There was a time or two where he just dumped it out to center and it came right back in, and you're going, oh yeah, there's the Caroline Cowboy we all know and love. But there was no starfish. There was no sort of big emergencies, and he tried to get involved in the offense. In fact, he had one very dangerous chance where he ripped a rocket slap shot off the can of Blake Wheeler, which was a dangerous shot if it had gotten through. But even just sort of ringing up Blake Wheeler, it wasn't the worst thing that could happen. I mean, credit to Wheeler, he got up and made his way off and made his way back into the game, but he paid the price for his team. Let's put it that way. And a lot of Winnipeg guys did. I mean, let's tip our hat to the Winnipeg Jets. They were a very tenacious opponent, and they played well enough and got enough breaks that you know. I honestly think they could play this series 50 times and it wouldn't be a sweep more than 2 or 3 times, but this happened to be one of them. Either way, I don't think the Oilers would sweep the Jets if they played this series again either. I just think it would be 2-2 after 4 games, and the majority of them, if you had 100 trials, 60 of them would be tied 2-2 after game 4.
Well said, Bruce. That's exactly right.
Uh,
It's such is life.
so
Such is life.
frustrating.
Yeah. So
So,
that's
yeah, here's my second bad thing. The Oilers are out, second year in a row. They got to the postseason. We've been just begging for postseason. We got there once in the prior 15 years until last year. And then, of course, last year we had this unnatural long wait before they started hockey again. And bam, in a week it was over. And we had all these high hopes the Oilers would win the first series, maybe pull an upset in the second series, and go in a little bit deeper into the playoffs. Bam, out in 7 days last year. This year again, starting as a favorite in their home rink. Bam, out in 6 days. Like, it's over. Like, it's playoffs. I mean, last Wednesday morning, I talked on Low Tide's radio show on TSN 1260, my regular Wednesday morning spot, and the playoffs hadn't even started yet. And this Wednesday, like day after tomorrow, I'm going to be back on there, and we're going to be talking about the season already being over. The playoffs just done, just gone up in smoke in 6 days. That's a bad thing. It's terribly frustrating. After all these long waits of finally playing meaningful playing hockey, and they can't win a damn game, right? They're 1-7 under Dave Tippett in the playoffs, and they're 2-11 in their last 13 playoff games. 2-11.
you know
One
the
goal
Jets.
losses galore. They lose almost all of those losses, and all 3 series were by 1 goal. But losses, losses, losses.
The Jets. The Jets have been a pretty good team for 4 years
Mm-hmm.
now. In
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.
2018, they had 114 points. They went to round three of the playoffs. They
Mm-hmm.
lost in round one the last 2 years. So,
After
maybe they've been
Kachuk threw
through
out last year.
some learning experiences, some tough times, and they
Mm-hmm.
just, because this was an incredibly disciplined defensive effort by the Winnipeg Jets to stop the Oilers. The Oilers are a high flying attacking team, especially with Connor McDavid out there
Mm-hmm.
and Draisaitl, and they just did a stellar job defensively. And I think it just finally probably if they're going to beat teams in the playoffs, they play strong defensive hockey, and they certainly did that. Let's move on to the numbers, Bruce. My number, Bruce, is 25, and this is one of the weirdest shifts, and it had to be Ethan Bear. Poor Ethan Bear. He gets out there to kill the rest of the penalty just with about like there's only like 10 15 seconds left in the penalty or when he gets out there, and he immediately makes a great play stopping a
He did.
slot play, and he gets it to the side, and he's showing all kinds of energy, and he gets the puck, bams it out of the slot, and helps him get it out of the zone. And but immediately he's called off to the bench, and I don't know why, Bruce. I don't know what is the thinking behind that. Just let him have a shift, play
Yeah.
a
See
he's
how he
got all kinds
does?
of
No?
energy.
Good idea.
Yes, he's ready to come back, redeem himself. what
Mm-hmm.
happens in the meantime is he's heading to the bench, called off the ice again.
We
Get
don't
off the ice
know.
as
That's
fast,
strict
fast as you
instructions.
possibly. Well, we you have to assume he had to get off the ice because why else is he getting off the ice after he's only been out there for 20 seconds? He hasn't
Mm-hmm.
played a full shift yet. So McDavid carries the puck in and he doesn't get it deep. He made of this idea that they're going to have a quick defensive change and get someone else out there, but he
Uh,
fails to get it deep, and they pick up the puck and also crapped out of position. He's they're all
mm-hmm.
tired by then, and he's not reading the play right. Maybe he's unaware that Ethan Bear line change, and and Kyle Connor gets the breakaway pass, and he's gone. He's gone. Beats Mike Smith. So a bad line change.
Right.
Four mental errors. Connor McDavid not getting it deep. Adam Larson not being aware a line change is going on and not covering the breakout. Ethan Bear, bad line change, and the coach that moment. Like I just think they lost the game on mental errors, and that's a tough way to lose a hockey game, but that's how it happened.
Yeah, well, whether it was, hard and fast instructions to get off, as being the third overtime, being an even numbered period in the game, the sixth period, it's a long change, and the long change has been a killer for years, and tonight it actually killed the Oilers' season. Bear went to the bench when it looked like McDavid had, he came into the zone with full possession, and he tried to flip it into the corner behind the defenseman. He got nothing on it, and Pionk, to his credit, he was able to stop the puck before it got behind him, and he quickly just dumped it up the boards. And there, Kyle Connor, who had been out there for the power play for quite a long time, and he was dragging his butt, and that's why he was like 100 miles behind the play coming back. And all of a sudden, the puck comes out to him, and he's behind everyone because Adam Larson's crept up, as you say. Bear has changed on the far side, like Connor's on the penalty box side, Kyle Connor, where our Connor McDavid had made his own entry on the penalty box side, and Bear made the change, of course, on the players' bench side. And Tyson Barrie, he jumps on for Bear, but he has no chance. Like he busts his
No.
ass to get over there as much as he can, and he turns it into a partial breakaway. Basically, he forces Connor to shoot the puck from, a little ways out. But Connor, being a good goal scorer, he makes a good hard shot. And Smith, I think he guessed a little bit with his blocker, and he started to move his blocker, and then it got right in between his blocker and his body and through. And in
Yeah.
at least it was a clean goal, but you can look at it and say, oh, few things went wrong, but I guess when you've been playing hockey for 107 minutes by then, mental errors are bound to creep in when you're playing with heavy legs and stuff. And this is where some people, and I may join this chorus, will criticize the coach for shortening his bench too much and leaving fresh legs there. And and that that's part of the reason that they had this mental error was a couple of mental errors was they had too few players with too much ice time.
Yeah. You're right, Bruce. Like Connor McDavid, like he just seemed exhausted at that moment, and Larson is just they've been out there forever. So
He did throughout overtime, and I thought he got slashed on the hand at one point in this game, uncalled. And I didn't think he handled the puck all that great in the late part, and I didn't know if his legs and his hands were tired or if it was he'd taken that slash. He also took a wicked knee on knee hit that somehow got completely missed by the officials, and they kept calling it a hit on the broadcast, but it was knee on knee. There's an excellent slow motion replay on Twitter that shows, this was nasty. This was Dylan DeMello, and he came in, stuck his knee out, and got Connor right in the knee. Luckily, he got up from that. That was a frightening moment, but that sure in the hell should have been a penalty. Nope. So anyway, he was he'd taken a couple of knocks by then, and anyway, he just couldn't get any mustard on that puck to get it deep, and either he should have just hung on to it, or else he should have got a little bit more weight on it, got all the way to the end boards. But maybe he didn't know that there was a change going on the other side of the bench of the ice behind him. He had no real way of seeing it. So who knows how much uh, communication was going on.
Yeah. What's your number, Bruce?
Yeah. Oh man, number. Yeah. So many numbers. So many numbers. I think I'll go with 22. Which is the number of shot attempts by Leon Draisaitl in this game, 10 on goal. He had 10 shots and Hellebuyck stopped all 10. 8 that were blocked by the defense, 4 that missed the target, including a couple of doozies in overtime where he did have a clean look and they were hard to come by, and his one-timers were off the target. But when he did fire some great shots, like he had one absolute rocket coming off the left wing that practically knocked Hellebuyck over. It was like a bazooka that shot it and hit him in the left shoulder, and
Oh yeah,
Hellebuyck
that
was
one.
able to fight that one off, and that was a rocket. And Leon, like he played a whale of a game, 44 minutes 37 seconds, about a minute less than McDavid, and I mean, otherwise, I mean, Nurse, I mentioned already, '07 is a number that stands out here. The guy literally played over an hour of hockey in what's scheduled to be a 60-minute game. And so there's lots of crooked numbers like that on tonight's sheet. So let's take those ones.
Alrighty, Bruce. I think we should shut her down now.
Did you have a number? Did you go first on numbers?
Yeah, I gave the 25 for Ethan Bear's
Oh, right,
shift.
right, right,
25
right.
seconds. Yeah.
So
So
25 seconds for Bear shift, 62 minutes for Darnell, including one shift of 4:47. So it was seriously imbalanced, and that's one where I think rightfully Dave Tippett has a couple of questions to answer, and maybe he already has in the post game scrum.
yeah, that's why I say Bear had to have orders to get off the ice fast. I guess because why else do you come off after you've been on the ice so short? There's no other reason. So it was not great. Yeah.
Of all the things, a long change, triple overtime, killer.
Yeah, I agree with you that with Larson and McDavid, the mistakes that were made on that goal might have been partly in large part
Exhaustion.
because of fatigue.
Mhm.
Fatigue makes cowards of us all. I don't think they were cowards. That's the old Vince Lombardi quote. But I just think fatigue makes people make them make mistakes and make errors that they wouldn't otherwise make, and that was starting to happen with regularity. Um, so, alrighty, Bruce.
Oh, this was the first time Edmonton got swept in a best of seven series since 1999, when the future Stanley Cup champion Dallas Stars took the Oilers out in four extremely close games, with the fourth game going even longer than this one. That one ended at, I'm pretty sure it was 57 minutes and 34 seconds overtime, longest game in Oilers history. Tonight's was the third longest. The Peter Klima game was second. And that was where a shot from the point, Zubov maybe, hit Joe Nieuwendyk in the shin pads and bounced in to end a long, like the Oilers gave a valiant attempt and they just came up just this little tiny bit short in every game. And they lost that finale after, almost three full periods of overtime. So it was about 10 minutes longer than tonight's game was. So then, like now, they gave it their all in the last game, and I'm reluctant to really criticize the effort that the team put in tonight. That they gave it
No
everything they
way.
had.
Yeah, no, I would not criticize the effort. I mean, that was what was fantastic. If you're going to go out,
Yeah.
it's you worry that they would get blown out and would look bad, but
Hmm.
no, they just really worked right to the end, and they're
Hmm.
being there as a team. Um, there's a few pieces missing, and hopefully they'll get there. Anyway, we will be talking about that. We don't have to talk about next season. We got a long time to talk about that now,
We got a
Bruce. So we
long
can.
summer again, David.
Hey, the good news is this: the Bakersfield Condors are into the next round of the playoffs. I
Good.
understand, so
Yes.
maybe we'll be watching those games. We'll see. All right, Bruce. Thanks for.
Bakersfield won tonight in overtime. They won yesterday night in overtime, and to overcome the loss in game one, so they just barely won the best of three semifinal series. So now they're in the finals, also best of three. So it'll be quick, but at least we have that to watch for next little bit. Maybe Ryan McLeod will go back down, play for them.
Maybe he will. Thanks for talking, Bruce.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.